welcome back to my channel. My name is Jerso and today I am here with my November wrap up. So we've made it into December of 2020, thank God. I felt like we were in November for 5 years, and you know, I'm just happy to see December. I'm happy to be here. I hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving. I took last Thursday off because it was Thanksgiving. 1, 2, I didn't have a video prepared even if I wanted to upload, which I didn't. And I was in California with Joe and Stella, and we were visiting my sister and her husband, so we spent Thanksgiving with them. And I was supposed to vlog that too, but spoiler alert, I did not. So it was just a great weekend to start fresh, decompose, and now I'm back with my November wrap up. I honestly barely remember my reading from the beginning of November, so this should be fun for all of us. And this video, once again, will probably be chaotic, but that's just the nature of how I am. So that's how we're just gonna move forward from now on. So in the month of November, I was able to read 5 books. I read 4 of them physically and then 1 audiobook. And then guys, I don't DNF books. Like, I like seeing books all the way through, even if I'm having like a really bad time, which is actually sick in the head. But like, I need to know if I'm missing out on something, like if the book gets better or if there's a twist in the story, you know, that will just make me love it. I have 1 DNF this month, and I think it's my 2nd one all year, but this book was just, you know what, we'll get to it. I'll explain my thoughts and feelings on that. But for now, I think I'm just gonna go in the order of when I read these books instead of by star rating, mostly because I'm not prepared, and we're just let's just go. So the first book that I ended up finishing in the month of November was The Southern's, I cannot say this. This title is so freaking long. I can't say it. Okay, so The Southern's Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. And this was the first horror book that I've ever read in my entire life. And this is about a group of like Southern housewives who start like a book club in like the 1940s. Is it the 1940s? In the 1900s. Okay, so they start a book club in the 1900s and they read a bunch of true crime books, and all of a sudden a suspicious guy comes into the neighborhood and weird things start happening. And this is a neighborhood where everybody knows everybody's business type of thing. And so there are a bunch of white women, and then on the other side of town is where there's a bunch of black families and they live, and their kids start disappearing and nobody's really paying attention because they are black, obviously. But then once the white children in the white neighborhood start going missing and weird things start happening to them, the main character in this book, who is Patricia, starts to focus more on this new person that's come into town and if he's really who he says he is. And I ended up giving this book 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it for my first horror book. I thought like the main character annoyed the crap out of me. Like, she was I was not vibing with her for a good percentage of the book, and I kind of had to keep checking myself because I'm like, it's the 1900s. Like, she's a housewife. There are certain stereotypes associated with housewives that the author is trying to portray in this book, so I can't really fault the main character for those stereotypes. But I had to keep checking myself on that. But like, this book kind of gave me the creeps. Like, it was actually kind of, there's some parts in here that are like super gruesome. At least to me, they were really gruesome, and I couldn't read this at night because I just knew we were just not gonna have a good time. So, but like I really enjoyed like the writing. Some of the characters in here were super funny. The book club and like the true crime aspect of it was super fun. I really enjoyed this. It didn't get a 5-star for me because it's not like an all-time favorite, but I still really had a good time reading this. If you're into horror and like housewife drama type stuff, I would recommend this. It's really good. So after I finished that, I was in the mood for like some type of fantasy type thing, and I've been seeing lots of people rereading The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon, because the 4th book of the series is finally coming out after 3 years. So I wanted to hop on the bandwagon, and so I picked up The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon, and I checked this out from the library because I wasn't sure if I was going to like it or not, but I will get there. Now I want to buy them all, but we'll get there. The Bone Season follows our main character Paige, and it takes place in like a urban futuristic, like a dystopian London in the year 2059, so like a futuristic London. In here we follow Paige, and Paige is a clairvoyant, and in this world clairvoyants are seen as like criminals, and they should not be allowed to be within population. So clairvoyants are outlawed basically, and if you are exposed as a clairvoyant, you are basically dead because the government captures you and kills you, or so she thinks. So one day Paige is caught using her powers, and she is captured, and she thinks she is about to die, but then she is taken into a different world that she didn't know existed. That's a really crappy description, but I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I really liked it. I loved the character, the main character Paige. She was badass. I loved her. She's one of my favorite female characters ever. And we also follow the main character. I think his name is Hawk. Why do I want to say Hawk? Warden. Where did Hawk come from? His name is Warden. So we meet Warden, and I liked Warden too. I don't know why. Like, I've been seeing things and people were like their relationship was kind of weird, but I wasn't catching any of those weird vibes at all. I really liked it. So the reason why this got 4 instead of 5 stars, I felt like some parts were really info dumpy. Like, it took me a while to follow what was really going on in the book, because they would just throw a bunch of information at you and you would just kind of have to sort it out in your mind. It was a lot, and it was a lot to keep track of, and it didn't hold your hand. I will say this, like, I do not think this book held your hand through everything. That was kind of hard, but I still really enjoyed the story, and I went and I picked up the 2nd book from the library, so I'm hoping I will be able to read that sometime in December. So after finishing The Bone Season, I was like, okay, so I've never really read a full-on sci-fi book, and I've been seeing lots of good things about the Red Rising trilogy, so I decided to pick it up. These were one of the books that I got for my birthday. So Red Rising follow our main character Darrow, and Darrow, in this world we are on the planet Mars, and it is like a color caste system. So we have all these different colors. We have the purples, the golds, the reds, the pinks. These colors all have their workings on the society. So we have the golds, who are basically top tier. They run the military, the government, and everything like that. And then we have the reds, who are basically the slaves. And as far as the reds are concerned, they are mining and doing all this work because Earth is now overpopulated, and they believe they are working to make Mars habitable for humans. One day something happens to Daryl's wife and he kind of loses his shit, and he somehow learns that Mars is inhabited by the golds and the pinks and the purples, and basically everybody knows that humans can live on Mars now except for the reds, and they're basically slaves. So Daryl comes up with this huge plan to infiltrate the golds, and it's basically his journey on how he can be a part of the golds and infiltrate that and change the system. I had extremely conflicting feelings about this. I enjoyed it a lot. First of all, I gave this book 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it a lot, but there were so many problems for me that I couldn't look past it. One of the things that really bothered me was, one, our main character and his character development. I didn't get a good sense of that. Like, there was like a weird switch, and I wasn't really sure what he was conflicted, and it showed, but I wasn't exactly like, it's so hard to describe. I don't know how to put this in words, but the main character just rubbed me the wrong way. I'm just gonna put it like that. And then also, like, these kids were like 14, 15, 16 years old, and like it was written like they were like 25 to 30, so their age range really like threw me off, because they were like 14 and married, and I guess that's how the world worked, but like it just seemed like they were so much older. And then another thing that I really had trouble with was the world building. I thought it wasn't the best. It was hard for me to picture exactly what was going on. There were a couple of battle scenes that were just really hard to follow, and I'm hoping the writing gets better within the other series, which I know it probably will. But overall, I did really enjoy the premise of this book. I enjoyed my time reading it. I just didn't love it. After reading Red Rising, I was really in a mood for something different, so I wanted to do a romance, and I was scrolling through Instagram and I saw somebody post about, I think it's called Evvie Drake Starts Over, and I listened to this on audio through the Libby app, and guys, I think this was my favorite book of the month that I read. So it is a romance, and we follow our main character Evvie, who is a recent widow, and she's basically like stuck on what to do. So she has a best friend, and everybody keeps thinking that they should be together, but they kind of understand that their relationship is just platonic. And her best friend has a guy best friend who is an ex-baseball player, and something has happened with his arm that he can't really pitch anymore, so he kind of wants to get away from the spotlight. So Evvie has an extra like apartment in her house, and he moves in to kind of clear his head a little bit, and him and Evvie spark a friendship that of course turns into more, and I absolutely loved this book so much. I gave it a 4.5 stars. It was so good. I loved the relationship between the two characters. I thought it was super sweet. The guy main character, why am I forgetting all of their names? Okay, so I love the relationship between our main character and Dean. Dean is his name. And I felt like Dean was just, he was so patient, and he was so kind, and oh, can we talk about the consent? I love to see it. We love to see it. There was consent, there was respect, there was understanding, there was communication. The communication, oh my gosh, whenever there was like a miscommunication between the two characters, it was communicated. Like Drake, is his name Drake? Or is it Dean? Yeah, Dean. Like, Dean would be hurt about something Evvie said, but he would call her out on it. I loved it. I absolutely would recommend this book. Like, and the audiobook was really good. It was such a good book. I absolutely loved it. I finished it in like a day. I could not stop listening to it. The reason why I took off half a star is because there was lots of baseball references, which I kind of wasn't my thing. And also the main character, although I really liked her, she did do some things that I was just like rolling my eyes. So half a star. But otherwise I would 100% would recommend. So after reading Evvie Drake, I was in such a romance mood. I was like, okay, give me all the love, give me all the smut, give me all the cheesiness. I'm here for it. I want it. So I picked up You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogle to itch this romance scratch that I had. And this was probably the worst decision I made, because this book almost put me in a reading slump. This was the book that I ended up DNFing for the month. And I was so irritated. The 75, I think I got to page 100. The 100 pages I read of this, I just could not continue. I could not do it. So in this book, we follow our main character, Naomi, and she is engaged to be married to a guy named Nicholas. So Nicholas is a rich mommy's boy, and Naomi kind of wants to get out of this engagement because she's not really feeling the vibes anymore. But the thing is, because Nicholas' family paid for most of the wedding, she's scared that if she's the one that calls off the wedding, she's gonna have to take up the bulk of the bill. And she works at like a mom and pop shop, barely getting hours, all this other jazz. So she realizes that Nicholas also doesn't want to get married, and they decide to start playing pranks on each other to get the other person to cancel the engagement. And yeah, this was a bust. First of all, the main character like annoyed the crap out of me. Like, she was just so, there was way too much there was way too much miscommunication happening, and Naomi wanted certain things. Like, there was this huge thing about flowers, and because Nicholas is such a mommy's boy, he would bring flowers to his mom, and we're hearing the inner dialogue of Naomi, and she's like, oh, I wish he gave me flowers, but he doesn't give me anything because he thinks I'm such a simple girl who doesn't like flowers or doesn't like gifts or anything like that. And she even admits that she put on this persona because that's what she felt that he wanted from her. And she wasn't being honest with him and saying, I want flowers. And she would get mad at him for not giving her flowers. And it's like, am I missing something? Because you told him that you don't like flowers. Like, you don't like him doing, like, you're okay with him not doing things like that for you. But if you're not okay with it, just tell him. But she like held it against him, and it was this huge thing, and I'm just like, what the, like, that made no freaking sense to me. It was a mess. It was a mess. It was a disaster. The miscommunication, the characters, I just was not vibing with this. I did not like it. Had to put it down, and I'll probably take these off my shelves because I don't think I will ever be in a mood for a book like this. I started reading the Inheritance Games, and I thought this was going to have to make its way into December, but no. I read this in one day. One day. It was so, I have thoughts about this. In this book, it's like a mystery. I'm gonna say mystery because it's not really thrillery. It's a mystery. In this book, we follow Avery Grams, and she is a high schooler who just basically is like invisible almost. Her mom has just passed away, I think 2 years ago, so she is in the care of her stepsister, and her stepsister Libby is kind of also in an abusive relationship. They're both kind of living paycheck to paycheck. So we meet her, and in the beginning of the book she ends up getting the inheritance of a billionaire named Tobias Hawthorne. So she learns that Tobias Hawthorne, the billionaire, has just left basically all his fortune to her, and he had this like big family. Tobias, he had this big family and 4 grandsons, and everybody thought that the grandsons would be the one inheriting his billions, his companies, his charities, and everything like that. So when she goes to the reading of the will and they realize that she has basically inherited everything, and she has no idea who this man is or why she was the one that was entitled to this money, and in order for her to get this money, she has to live in the house with all his family for a year. So basically in this book we follow her and the 4 grandsons, and their grandfather loved to play games and riddles, and he was really big into that, and he kind of raised his grandsons to be into that thing as well. So when he does this, all of them kind of think like it's some kind of game and some kind of riddle. So she joins his grandsons, and they're basically trying to figure out where she knew Tobias from, and just like why she was the one that was randomly allotted this large sum of money. I ended up giving this book 3.5 stars, and I really enjoyed it. I did. I thought it was fun figuring out the riddles and stuff like that, but there was just something missing for me. I loved Evvie as a character. The 4 grandsons, like, I think it was the riddles. Like, some of the riddles were really like nice, but then others just seemed a little too like convenient. I don't know. I'm so conflicted about this book because I really did enjoy it, and even after I finished reading it, I could not stop thinking about it. Like, this book kept me up all night because I was trying to figure out like what the second book was going to be about, like what direction the author was going to take it, and I really did enjoy it, but there was just something missing for me to give it that 4 or 5 stars. So those are all the books that I managed to read last month. I'm hoping December is a little bit of a better reading month. I'm hoping to get some 5-star reads in there to just end out 2020 with a high note. I feel like I'm gonna end up reading a lot of romances this month. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you did, and I'll see you guys with another video soon. Bye.